the entire nation isn't corrupt. It's
right.
just
For sure.
It's certain people in certain departments that see opportunity and they take it, and sometimes they take that opportunity at the detriment of people that are trying to do some good. And so you really kind of have to have your eye on the ball, and, you have to have people that you can trust that are there to kind of follow up on things when you're not able to.
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Weiss Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further. Welcome back to another episode of Weiss Advice. I'm your host, as always, Yonah Weiss. And why am I so excited today? Well, if you listen to this podcast, you know that I'm pretty excited every single day because this is an awesome podcast that I get to sit with incredible people and just talk with them and hear who they are, what they do. And today I have a really special guest, Tosin Oduwole, who is an incredible person. I had the honor of meeting in person in Atlanta a couple of years ago before the lockdowns, and just love to, get to know what you're up to and what's going on in your life right now. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Sounds good. There's been a lot transpiring since the last time that we met. I believe you came to Atlanta for a conference, and then we were able to kind of link up, at my place and kind of get into some tax strategy. And I thank you so much for that. It's given me a lot of insight into what I'm currently doing now. And I always kind of point people your way and talk to people about cost segregation and say that Yonah Weiss is the number one guy in the country for that tax strategy, so thank you very much for kind of opening my eyes to that. But yeah, there's been a lot going on over the last couple of years.
That's amazing. Yeah, it was nice. You had a great recording, like a fireside chat we did. That was really great. Got a lot of response from that as well. And, but yeah, I'd love to hear what do you have going on in the last couple of years? And maybe just for our listeners, give a little bit of a background of, who you are, what you do. And yeah, I'd love to catch up in terms of what you've been up to.
Sure. So, I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. My parents were real estate investors. My father owned about 210 units in St. Louis, Missouri. At the age of 25, I must have been 1 or 2 years old at that time. As I got older, my mother, who handled property management for his residential portfolio, she would always take me with her to cut grass, pick up rent checks, and all these things. As a kid, I never really knew what was going on, and I never really wanted to go with her, but she would drag me with her. And later when I got older and I started, to figure out which college I would go to, and I started thinking about what industry I'd get into, and real estate always kind of just tugged at me because I looked at my parents' life and how they lived and how they raised us. And I never, ever really saw my parents working like a set schedule. I never saw like my mom leave at 9 a.m. and come back at 5. It was always when we have work to do, when we have to cut the grass or fix a toilet or pick up a rent check, that's when we work. And so I kind of started shadowing her in the businesses that she was doing. She also ran a adult daycare facility for mentally challenged adults. And she made me manager of that company. I ran that for about 2 years, dealing with payroll and employees and the different clients that came in and things of that nature. And then when I moved to the East Coast in 2009 was when I really got into real estate myself as a wholesaler, kind of just finding properties for other investors that were coming from New York and that were looking for properties in New Jersey and Essex County. And
Gotcha.
So that's what really kind of gave me an insight into what my parents were doing for all these years. And that is what really set off the light bulb and said, I need to be in this business, And from there, went on to co-found the Tulsa Real Estate Fund, which is a Regulation A Tier 2 real estate fund based in Atlanta, Georgia. Our first week, we raised roughly about $8.5 million in capital. Went on to buy a 98-unit apartment complex in Macon, Georgia. Bought a 30,000 square foot office space in East Point, Georgia. Single-family residential flips in the Midwest and in New Jersey. And in 2019, I resigned from my position as vice president there to start my own fund, a Regulation D 506C fund, which focuses specifically on commercial real estate in Chicago, the southside of Chicago.
Oh, okay.
Currently, we have $100 million capital raise to put into assets in the south side of Chicago.
That's amazing because the south side of Chicago notoriously is a pretty rough neighborhood.
Correct. Yeah.
So you're trying to change things around.
Correct. Definitely change things around, kind of bring it back to the economic vibrance that it had in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Specifically the South Shore neighborhood, which a lot of people don't know is where Michelle Obama's from. That's where she was born and raised. Kanye West's mother, born and raised there. A lot of notable people that we know come from the South Shore neighborhood of Chicago. And right now, that neighborhood is having a very, very tough time. And being that half of my family is from Chicago, half of us is from St. Louis, the other half from Chicago. I spent a lot of my childhood in Chicago. And so as I got older and I said, you know what, I'm in a capacity now, I'm at a place where I can actually give back to that community and kind of help it kind of get back to its economic vibrance. And that's what my goal is right now.
That's amazing. So walk me through a little bit, because obviously real estate is, for a lot of people in the world, and yourself included, a place where you can obviously make a huge difference in communities. But, in order to do that, you have to have a lot of capital in order to do that. Obviously, you're starting a fund, bringing on investors, but having other businesses and other passive income and things like that, helping to drive that. Is that something you're focused on as well?
Yeah, 100%. So in the last 2 years or so, I've kind of gotten heavy into affiliate marketing.
Right. That's exactly what I was getting. I've seen you post a lot about that on Instagram. You're big on that. You got your Rolls Royce and all that good stuff, right?
Yeah. So a lot of people are kind of unfamiliar with affiliate marketing is. And I've been racking my brain for like the last year and a half trying to figure out what is a name or a term that I can use to rebrand it so that it's more, I guess, understandable or comprehensive when people hear it. Mm-hmm. And all it is that a company A, will pay you X amount of dollars or percentage to bring customers to them. That's it.
Right.
So when you look at Amazon is the biggest affiliate marketer in the world. Mm-hmm. None of the products that are sold on Amazon are made by Amazon, except for maybe I think Amazon Alexa, which these are things that they've done in the last couple of years.
Right.
They have Amazon Prime, et cetera. But prior, they were a platform to where sellers would put their things for sale, put their items for sale. And when they sell, they would give Amazon a cut. That's all affiliate marketing is. Mm-hmm. And so with my particular fund, I always felt that when you have a $100 million fund and you're talking to institutional investors and accredited investors, and you're saying, hey, trust me with $100 million, they kind of want to see what you currently have going on before they do that. And so I use affiliate marketing as a way to raise capital, to purchase assets, to kind of show them how I run my business, show them my savvy with being able to deal source, find the right properties in the right neighborhoods at the right cap rates. So then when I now come to them and say, hey, I'm looking for help or assistance from your group so that we can magnify this thing, they actually have data that they can look over and see my track record and see what I'm currently doing. So
interesting. Yeah.
When I started doing affiliate marketing a couple of years ago, I got enough money to partner on the acquisition of a 22-unit apartment building in Montgomery, Alabama. And so that was a property. It was 22 units, 4 buildings. And currently we're at 55% occupancy. We're doing rehab on the last building. We should be at 85% occupancy, hopefully by March of next year. Mm-hmm. And my plan is to just use the revenue I earned from affiliate marketing, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars, and to put that into assets that I will own under the fund's umbrella. So that way I have, some data that I can show to investors so they can kind of see what they're getting into.
Gotcha. So I looked into, it's very interesting. You bring this topic up. We've never really talked about this on the podcast before, but it's so fascinating. I'm glad to have finally someone who's doing it day to day, and you've been successful in doing it. I came across like YouTube videos years ago, 5-6 years ago, like people like the Lamborghinis and like, you can do this. And I mean, that's really what you're doing. No, that's you now to a certain extent, but no, basically people selling courses like on how to do that. No, there's nothing wrong with that. But what I gathered pretty quickly, and maybe it's changed, or maybe you can correct my, is that you really need to have a big following of some kind, or be able to drive a lot of traffic in order to make it lucrative. Was that a fair statement?
Yeah, it's definitely fair if you want to go the marketing and the brand route. Mm-hmm. I have, I've been in that lane, and I've worked with brands that kind of really capitalize on that.
Yeah.
And I had a couple issues with that because depending on the brand or depending on the company, a lot of times the courses or the content that's being sold is not really what the customer or the consumer needs. It's watered down. And a lot of times in the business plan, there will be a lead capture to where it's like, okay, we'll give you a free ebook.
Right.
We get your email, your phone number, we get you into a funnel, and then we sell you a product. That product maybe only gives you 25% of what you actually need. And so to get the rest of the 75%, you might have to buy something else,
right,
and something else. And it gets into a situation to where the consumer or the customer or the investor is being drained of their money over time before they actually get what they want. Mm-hmm. And I don't like that business model. I think it's very predatory. And me personally, I just couldn't follow that model.
Yeah.
You know, and so with my when I got to learning affiliate marketing and kind of learning the ins and the outs, I gave it all away in one shot at one price. No upsells, no lead capture, no hook and sinker. You get exactly what I have experienced and what I can show with proof of bank statements, affiliate revenues, that this actually works.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I don't knock anybody else's business model, but I think, you know, long term, and I really get this from my father, is that to succeed long term, you do need to have a track record of integrity. You do need to have some type of reputation to where people feel and believe that what you say is what they actually get from you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've probably lost out on a lot of money not following the other business models, but you know, I have the peace of mind just knowing that anybody who's ever paid me for anything has never had a gripe, you know, has never felt like they got shortchanged.
Right.
You know, and then just being able to document my process and, you know, show people what I'm doing along the line, the ins and the outs, the ups, the downs. You know, it's very tough to raise $100 million.
Yeah.
You know, it's very tough. You know, you're dealing with people that are 20, 30 years older than you, that have been in the game a lot longer than you, and you need to convince them why you can do a better job with their money than they can.
Yep.
That's not an easy feat, but it can be done. But it's really important that you focus on the way that you are moving every step of the way. And so that's kind of what I've been focusing on, you know, the last 2 years since I've been independent with my Regulation D fund, and kind of the way I've kind of moved my entire career.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. You know, you've found your purpose and you found kind of a way to do it. And it's definitely not an easy path.
No.
Not the path of least resistance, but it's definitely gotten you to a place where you've been able to help a lot of people along the way as well.
Most definitely.
Now, where do you see this going? I mean, obviously putting in $100 million into the south side of Chicago is going, you know, could potentially change the entire neighborhood, right? What's the end goal in terms of that? I mean, do you foresee like an economic resurgence? Because I'll just be, you know, kind of my own take on this is that a lot of times when you have these neighborhoods, and especially such inner cities like south side of Chicago, a lot of what's happening there is also, you know, education. And I know that we've spoken about this before, that's one of the things when you originally had launched the Tulsa project, it was about, you know, traveling around and teaching people and educating people about financial literacy, essentially, which a lot of people don't have and are not taught.
Correct. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not so arrogant to believe that my one venture is going to change an entire city, but I do think that I can contribute. And the way that I can contribute is that when I sink $100 million into the south side of Chicago, I'm going to need property managers. I'm going to need accountants. I'm going to need all these other ancillary services in order for the machine to work. So I can make sure that those property managers, those accountants, those janitors, those handymen, those are people who are who are in that industry, but are struggling to find that work. You know, those minority-owned companies that maybe there's no fund or no company in the country that's going to give them a $5 million project, you know, and I'll vet them, make sure that they're qualified. We're not just out here giving jobs and giving contracts to people just because they're a minority, but they cannot fulfill the work, making sure that they are qualified for the work. And I believe that there will be some level of trickle down to an extent to where they will be able to hire more staff. They'll be able to have more activity going on in their company, grow their business, grow their company. And that's my contribution. And when it comes to other factors, then, as we say in Africa, I'm a child of Nigerian immigrants. It takes a village to raise a child, but every person in that village contributes one thing. And when we throw all that into the pot, now we have something. So what I know and I have confidence that I can bring to the table is being able to provide work and contracts for property managers and accounting firms and all of these ancillary services that I will definitely need, that will be the pillar of my business sustaining and going forward. And then, kind of just trying to encourage other people that are under that umbrella of real estate that provide other services to consider the same thing.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Obviously, when you're moving into a community, you're building it up. Even if it's a small amount, whatever you're doing is obviously helping to make that place more independent. I guess that's the word, really. I mean, kind of helping the people from the community itself. Where instead of bringing outside property managers or outside people, you want to work within the community to make sure that it's thriving from within.
100%.
Are you using any sort of technologies? This is something I like to ask my guests a lot, because especially younger people, are doing things in ways that the older generation isn't not necessarily caught up to as much. So what are some of these things that you're doing or are implementing, in terms of technology to make your business thrive?
So, there's something called CRMs, or customer relationship management software. I literally just had a call with my CRM company this morning. I use Infusionsoft. And so what Infusionsoft does, their CRM, which allows you to collect data on everyone you interact with. So their names, email addresses, phone numbers, addresses, their annual salary. It can go as extensive as their birthdays, wedding anniversaries, whatever it is that you need to collect so that you can know better who you're dealing with. And that has been very, very instrumental in me getting to the point where I'm at now. Because in order to better serve a community or serve a customer, you have to know them. You have to know their habits, spending habits, exercise habits, eating habits, their schedule. All of these things are very, very important. And if you have an iPhone or an Android, Apple and Samsung, they're watching your data and they're watching your behavior, what you're Googling, what you're searching, where you're spending your money, because they want to be better able to, if not just monetize you, but also service you in the best way possible. So I've kind of been using that to better set myself up to be able to be a pivotal instrument in that community. I've also bought up several URLs that are in regards to the south side of Chicago for rebranding purposes, right? So I bought southshorelux.com. I bought the new southshore.com, because a lot of the things with these communities is that the branding or the information that is put out about these areas is bad. When you hear Southside Chicago, the first thing that you think about is violence.
Yep. For sure.
We need to change that. And that starts with having landing pages and having marketing and materials that are being sent out to show people there's other things happening here too. There's a revitalization. There's a redevelopment. There's a company called BAP United, Building Acquisition Partners United, which is putting $100 million into this community to provide jobs to tradesmen who are qualified. So that way we can kind of combat that. And with that, the values of those neighborhoods slowly rise up. Yep. And so that is something that I think CRMs really help you do, because you're able to have your finger on the pulse and what's happening there, and being able to understand the people that are in that area, what their habits are, what their day-to-day schedules are. And so it really all starts with the data.
Amazing. It really is. And I think that's, you kind of summed that up really well, because data, whatever you want to call it, is something that everyone thrives off of, right? Everyone lives by, thrives off of, and can really learn, like you said, learn about their customers, learn about who they're serving, and better serve them. So, I mean, it's, if you'd be a fool not to use it, right? Obviously you want to make sure you're making the best of everything. That's amazing. So I do want to transition a little bit before we get into the final four. I'm very curious to know, besides for the Southside of Chicago, obviously you're working on this project in Alabama. Are there other real estate, either investments or projects that you have going on simultaneously, or that you're looking into besides this fund, like outside of that? Obviously, running $100 million fund is a big project, but you want to anything on your own?
Correct. Yeah. So one of the things that I have going on right now, which I haven't really spoken about or kind of put out in the universe yet, is that me and my mother have been working together in real estate for quite some time, but in Africa. And so recently we just finished the construction of a duplex in Lagos, Nigeria, which we actually started in 2016. It took us 4 years to finish that project. We literally just ended about 2 months ago. And the issues that we ran into in trying to build just a duplex from another country taught me a lot. Literally about a month ago, we closed on about 15 acres, also in Lagos, Nigeria, which we're going to build a school and a facility, which kind of compounds off of what my mother did here in the States with the adult daycare facility for mentally challenged adults. The United States has a lot of programs for disabled people. Africa doesn't. It just doesn't. The infrastructure isn't there. Sadly, there is a lot of corruption in politics. So if there is any budget that's set aside, it's usually siphoned out before it gets to go to where it needs to go to. And so my mother in her later years, in her retirement years, she's never going to retire. She says she is. She's never going to retire. But, that's what we're going to kind of transition to in Nigeria and Africa, and is to kind of, create a space to where people who are disabled can come and get quality care. And so that is something that I believe, for the next however many years, I'm going to be very, very involved in with my mother. And whenever God calls her home, I'm going to take that over. And that's going to be something that I'm going to kind of build for our legacy and for our family, and just to improve our country and just try to, contribute the one thing that we know how to do. As we say, it takes a village to raise a child. And so that's kind of what I'm working on. That's outside of my fund and outside of the things that we have stateside.
That's great. I'm so glad I asked. Right, it's doing anything from out of the country is challenging. Obviously, you need to have some sort of partners or some sort of people on the ground that can help make it happen. But I know hard enough. I tried once to do a fix and flip of a single family in buying a property, working on contracts when I was out of the country. It was a mess. It was a nightmare. But I can't imagine doing that anymore. But obviously, it sounds like you have something special going on, buying land. Nigeria is a place that I have not looked into a lot in terms of, the development. But like most African countries, like you said, there is a lot of corruption. There's a lot of things going on that probably makes it much more challenging to do real estate development there.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely has its challenges. There definitely is a roadmap to navigate through. The entire nation isn't corrupt. It's
right,
just
for sure.
It's certain people in certain departments that see opportunity, and they take it, and sometimes they take that opportunity at the detriment of the people that are trying to do some good. And so you really kind of have to have your eye on the ball, and you have to have people that you can trust that are there to kind of follow up on things when you're not able to. And there definitely are, we thank God for our contractor team and our family and the people that are very, very vigilant and making sure that every dollar that I wire over via Western Union is going exactly to where it needs to go, and them being able to take video and pictures of progress, every phase. And, it definitely is possible. I think right now it's just a longer process to get there. But I think that over time, we will have a situation to where, our country is a bit more operating on the integrity side and on the, construction and building up of the countryside, especially as, the prior generation phases out and the younger guys come up, the guys that are 30 and 40 now, as they become to kind of take control of the country, they've grown up in a different environment, and to where it's not so steal whatever you can steal for yourself. It's more of like build a legacy for your name for pushing your country forward. And I feel in the next 10 to 15, 20 years, we are going to be the ones that are going to be the leaders of the country, and things will change. And so it's really just about being patient and, sticking the course. And, when I'm 55 years old, I really believe that my country will be a totally different place. And you can already see it's moving in that direction. I left in 2005. And if you look at Nigeria now in 2021, as opposed to 2005, it is a totally different country. And it makes me smile because I remember when I graduated high school, the way things were, and seeing how things are now, we're on the right track.
That's great. I'm happy to hear that. It's always good to hear good things out of different places around the world, and giving back, obviously, where you come from and where you have family and where you can help out. That's really what it's all about. Which obviously led you to doing that there, projects there, as well as in Chicago. And it just goes to show, you build where your community is and where people, where you feel like you can make the most impact. I want to transition now to these 4 questions I call the final 4 questions I ask all my guests. Tosin, what's the worst job that you ever had?
The worst job I ever had was my first job. I worked at Jack in the Box. It's a fast food restaurant that's popular in the Midwest and the South. And when I got hired there, I think I was a freshman in college, and they put me in the back cooking the tacos. And so the oil would always spit out of the pit and burn me on my hands and my neck. And every 8-hour shift, I would always be dreading, like, I'm going to get burned cooking these tacos. And so I started wearing like long sleeve shirts and started wearing hoodies and stuff like that would catch the spray from the oil. And I had that job for probably about 3.5 months. And I said, you know what? I can't do it. And then I quit, and then I went to go work at Sonic to, ride around on roller skates and serve people their food on that. But it was way better than Jack in the Box. But yeah, my worst job was my first job.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's usually we learn from our first jobs what not to do more. But that's pretty crazy. What's a book you've read that's given you a paradigm shift?
That's an easy one. There was a book called The Corner Office by Adam Bryant. Adam Bryant used to be a journalist at the New York Times. This book, Corner Office, is about building a company with company culture and structure, how to deal with your employees and people that are in your organization with care, but with still a firm hand in entrepreneurship and running a successful business. And that changed my mind in every single way when it came to what I previously thought running a business was like. And so when it comes to HR, when it comes to understanding that you may hire people that are from different cultures, and it's very, very important to have at least a surface or basic understanding of the people who are in your organization, not being so naive to not knowing who's working in a company that you built. And that book really, really, really gave me a lot of insight. I first read that book, I believe, in 2012. I still have it, it's circled up. I go back to it. I've spilled coffee, wine on it, everything. It looks like it's been through war. But I keep that because it really, really gave me a lot of insight into how to deal with people. Because organizations, businesses, it's just people. Yep. An organization, we got to say, that organization is people. That business is people. So being able to know how to deal with people, relationships, different cultures, religions, backgrounds, even people that are from different parts of the country, there's certain things that you have to know to be able to properly deal with them and make them feel like they're in the right place. And that book definitely helped me kind of understand that better.
Awesome. All right. Well, first time we got that one on here. I'd love to put that in the show notes for any of our listeners who want to check that book out. Sounds like a good one. Definitely add that to my reading list too. The third question for you is going to be, what's a skill or talent that you'd like to learn?
Oh, that is an easy one. So my talent when it comes to real estate is deal sourcing. Okay. Something I've always lacked on is underwriting of the deal, which is the reason why I've always hired the best underwriters. But deep down inside, I've always kind of been jealous and envious of how they're able to underwrite these deals and be able to look at those financials and be able to know by just looking at the numbers that this is what we have to buy. And so that's a skill that I've spent years perfecting, and I've definitely gotten better and grown at it. But I would love to take a in-person class or in-person course with somebody who is a ninja at underwriting so that I could become the best that I can be at that.
All right. Awesome. Well, if any of our listeners are that ninja, yes, definitely reach out to Tosin. There definitely are some.
Buddy, I promise.
I definitely have come across some ninjas of underwriters, but you gotta apply it. I don't know. My brain can't wrap around that stuff sometimes. It's just like, I'd rather be focusing on the things that I'm better at, but I definitely see the value in just looking at spreadsheets and seeing it come alive, you know,
100%.
Which good underwriters can do. Fourth and final question. What does success mean to you?
Oh, okay. That would have a couple of answers. The first thing that comes to my mind is peace of mind and freedom, of which I feel I've unlocked that level of success to where you can wake up and you know you're free to kind of focus on the things that are important to you. I know it makes me feel really, really good when my mother gives me a call and she asks me for assistance or help on a project, and I can do that without thinking. It's like, all right, Mom, I'll wire the money to you on Tuesday, right? It's amazing. I feel that as a child, she rose me up. She took care of me. Now it's my turn to take care of her. So that is number one. Number two is being able to give knowledge and information to people who feel like nobody would have taught them that, or nobody would have shared that information with them, and break it down in a way that makes them feel like they don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand it. That is success to me. When I see that look in somebody's face where I know that light bulb just went off, then it's like, okay, I got it. So I was able to break it down in a way to where they understand it. And it takes away that feeling of them feeling like, I can't do that. That's for smart people, you know? So that is a part of it. And then I also think there's a part of success that maybe I just haven't reached yet, that I just haven't gone to, gotten to a point to where I understand it yet. You know, I feel like we're always growing. There's a thing I say amongst my inner circle that every 5 years, what we want and who we are is going to change. Now, the fundamental things about us will stay the same. Our character, our morals, our personality, right, those probably stay the same forever. But there's going to be things about us that change every 5 to 7 years or so. And I think that as those years go by, then my idea or the things that I consider success will begin to evolve.
Right.
You know, so it's something that's kind of like an ever-going, evergreen process. But, you know, the initial things are things that I can identify right now.
Absolutely. It's always good to be able to give back, you know, especially looking at yourself, your parents, you know, someone who's raised you, like you said, and that's special. That really is, you know, and growing and going with those core values and then just building on those and changing as time goes on. You know, that's what life's all about. So I appreciate you taking the time out. Tosin, where can our listeners find you or reach out to you?
Great. So, yeah, I mean, I would love everyone to go and check out our website, bapunited.com, BAPunited.com. There's some great things we're looking to do in Chicago. We have a $100 million max offering for accredited investors. And I love for everyone to go and check that out. I'm also available on Instagram as well, Tosin_Oduwole. My personal email address is Tosin@BAPUnited.com. That's TOSIN@BAPUnited.com. And those are the places where you can find me.
Amazing. We'll make sure to put that all in the show notes for our listeners. And I just appreciate you taking the time. I know it had taken a while for us to be able to schedule this and catch up over here, but it's glad I'm glad to hear you're doing amazing things, and look forward to seeing where the next 5-10 years where that's going to take you. Most
definitely. And as soon as we really put our tentacles down in Chicago, I would love for you to come and do cost segregation for us. I've said it once and I'll say it again. When it comes to that tax strategy, you are the number one person in the country for that. And I would have it no other way than for my team and my organization to work directly with you. Appreciate that, Tosin. It'd be my pleasure. And we'll look forward to that day. Let's keep it going. Chicago's going to be a different place. That's for sure. Definitely. Well, thank you again. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us all the way till the end. And remember, until next time, the best advice comes only when you ask.
Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? If you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn. Send me a DM, a connection request, Yona Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.